Overwatch's new season brought many new features, among them being the story tab, where instead of us getting 3 things drip fed over a year and only on the official website, now we get a bunch of comics and short stories in the span of a season, all of which can now be found in this new tab. Though while the story tab does get you up to speed with the current plot, there are some things in between that are missing that they omitted for either being too long or not relevant to the current story, such as Juno's short story, which should be right here, or the recently released webtoon comic just not being there. So given that everything for each individual hero doesn't get touched on, and the new season's coming out, I took the liberty of looking at and compiling website descriptions, short stories, comics, cinematics, and other story related content to put into a semi-digestible video for those who want to know what everyone, given the information we have, is doing without needing to read all that. And just to be clear, I'll be assuming you know a basic amount of information on the heroes aside from the new 5, and that you've watched cinematics and cutscenes to know what the events that have happened up until post-invasions are. Starting off with current events happening, Talon has attacked Overwatch's headquarters at Watchpoint Gibraltar after Vendetta's takeover of Talon. Beyond that, we have no information on what's happening, so as of current, that's what's happening. Character-wise, we'll start off with Talon's faction, starting with Doomfist, or Conde really, because motherfucker lost the gauntlet. That's the entire reason he was called Doomfist, whose current status is currently written as left unknown, and notably all of his interactions and voice lines indicating his leadership of Talon have since been removed from the game. So we'll most likely see him eventually, maybe not as Talon's leader, but a new faction or something else. He's just not dead. Vendetta, Coliseo's champion and new layer of Talon, is currently laying siege to not just Overwatch, but apparently the whole world for some big plan that is yet to be revealed.
This war you're waging isn't just aimless chaos. What are you planning?
Have patience, Commander. I would never spoil the finale.
And is primarily striking at Overwatch, seeing them as the biggest threat to her reign, enlisting the help of different factions we know, like the Deadlock Gang, Vishkar Industries, the Hashimotos, and is currently attempting to form a connection in Junkertown. As for persuading the current Talon members, thanks to information from Maximilian, the Omnic, she has managed to sway the remaining people to get them on her side. Domina, Vishkar's company's heiress and current vice president of operations and development, is working with Talon as a vie for more power, providing Vendetta's warriors with hardlight technology, and in return, any damage is done to large areas during Vendetta's siege or reign. Vishkar has full rights to redevelop those areas at the behest of Domina, in like a slimy corporate takeover sort of way. Also, she's getting chinchillas. Emre, currently working under Talon as a mercenary against his own will though, since if he disobeys the AI thing inside him will most likely take over, causing him to go blank again and do untold damage to whatever and possibly his friend. As for the AI resigning within him, most we know that it has something to do with the group conspiracy, which is its own thing, but it relates to a couple other characters, which I'll get more into later, and potentially has something to do with Chernobog, since despite Emre being Turkish, his ultimate voice line is in Finnish, which is the same location and area Chernobog, the god program overseeing security, resides. And prior to joining Talon, what has Emre been infiltrating? Global security factories. Either way, he's haunted. Alongside Emre, Freya is also working as a merc for Talon. Not out of any sort of like sympathetic understanding with Talon or any nefarious reason that she tries to better herself with like many other characters. She's doing it rather to just watch over Emre, much like the many times during both their time in Overwatch he would do for her. And currently are tasked with infiltrating Grand Mesa, a highly secure area, and notably where Sombra and Soldier 76, I'll get into that later, infiltrated in what contained the ruins of Overwatch's Swiss base, and as of Sierra's hero trailer, has successfully infiltrated and grabbed a case of some sort. Ash and the Deadlock Gang, as previously mentioned, are currently working under Talon, with their first stop being a distraction while Freya and Emre raid the facility. For Moga, he's still with Talon given his violent, combat sexual, joyful nature, and whatever else he may be getting out of it has been sent to Junkertown by Vendetta to try to get the Junkers as an ally. As of right now, there is no info on how this is going yet, but given that one of the daily missions titles for at least week 2 on Talon's side is called Contract Junkrat, with text from Vendetta about the Junkers. Either only Junkrat and Roadhog are working for them, or potentially they already got all the Junkers. Speaking of the Junkers, Junkrat and Roadhog were previously captured but barely escaped getting executed by the Junkers by opening the Omnium in Junkertown, leading to them quickly being pardoned by the Queen and potentially, as I previously mentioned, being contracted by Talon. Junker Queen only pardoned them because inside the Omnium revealed some sort of amazing aircraft that required high-grade thrusters. Hammond, Queen's champion, who's revealed to be a hamster after Roadhog ripped open a part of his mech in their fight, infiltrated Liu Cheng Stellar's building to steal the thrusters for Junker Queen's ship, and after a very ugly back and forth with Dr. Chow, one of the people who greenlit experimentations on animals that led to the project of him and Winston becoming hyper-intelligent animals. Dr. Chow and her security tried to capture Hammond for whatever reason, and Hammond, being Hammond, easily escaped while stealing the thrusters with a newfound passion, wishing to burn that company, Liu Cheng's Interstellar, to the ground. Mizuki, a mole for the Hashimoto's, has currently infiltrated Yokai, aka Kiriko's group, and currently is having a moral dilemma of whether or not to do the right thing and stick with Yokai and ditch the Hashimoto's, or do his mission, in fear that a cursed spirit haunting his bloodline, which supposedly caused the death of his father, so that persona of the edgy Valorant boy, reheated Saja Boy Nachos, is a front he's putting on for Yokai, while thinly underneath is a soft, very paranoid boy in anguish, who only sees himself as a walking, talking Murphy's Law.
This curse, it won't let me go. Am I being punished? 死が追いかけてきよる。悪霊退散、悪霊退散、悪霊退散。
Moira is probably the least bothered of any of the Talon Council about the new leadership. She's doing fine, because so long as her research is being funded, she could care less. Though, Vendetta seems to be giving her even more funding than Doomfist did, fully just straight up buying her loyalty. And Sigma. Sigma is currently stuck with Talon, and seems to be undergoing much more harsh treatment, stuck in confinement compared to his more lax containment with Doomfist. Not that it was much better, it's just not torture, right?
Are you okay, viejito? You don't look too good.
I am afraid conditions have worsened in your absence, my friend.
Hang in there, okay? I promise I'll get you away from her.
Vendetta, however, only really sees him as a volatile living weapon more than that of a person, and it is abundantly clear that Sigma has been growing more and more unstable because of this, where in previous interactions, Sigma would just see his experimentations with Moira as just a visit to the doctors and whatever, like a mild sort of testing, and I started seeing it as like the torture it really is, lashing out about it.
You toy with power beyond your comprehension. Release me! You will release me!
Now with Talon out of the way, let me go over the Overwatch members. Sojourn is the current leader of Overwatch, and despite many people thinking it would be Winston, which given it was his recall and all, but the difference between the two is that Sojourn actually has leadership experience in like military forces, especially Overwatch during its prime, where Winston doesn't have that same sort of experience. And given this leadership status, she stood in front of press to explain the events that took place during invasions, and was set to shut down Overwatch after Null Sector withdrew by the International Justice Commission. But now with Talon coming out the shadows and straight up attacking Overwatch, like I said, trying to lay siege to the world, Sojourn is currently working with the IGC and letting Overwatch remain active, though she is specifically worried about how the United Nations will respond to this. And her being Overwatch's new leader makes sense, since if you read the new Webtoons comic, despite only just arriving after speaking in front of press, she immediately took charge of the situation to get everyone out of the fire and into safety. Winston didn't get much, but we know he is a sort of co-leader to Overwatch besides Sojourn, similar to how like Ana was in relation to Soldier or Jack Morrison during Overwatch's prime. And after invasions, Winston recruited both Anran and Wu Yang. Genji, after the attack and long since at peace with his half-mech, half-man self, dons a new outfit, revealing more of his human self since his Blackwatch era. Same with Lucio and a few others, but without the same sentimentality behind the outfit change, unlike himself and Tracer. Tracer, who, like I just said, got a new outfit, and seemingly, after the attack on Gibraltar, seems to have taken some damage from the events in the form of scars all over her face. But strangely enough, the damage she sustained isn't from the attack on Gibraltar, since she's a main part of that comic, and by chapter 8, she's perfectly fine without any sort of wounds. Lucio sadly hasn't gotten much either, except he now seems to have a thing going on with Iggy. Iggy being one of Tracer's Omnic friends we see during the London Calling comic, who's really into music, and in the webtoons was about to die if not for Anna saving him. Torbjorn is retired, like just straight up retired, and has chosen to stay in Gothenburg after the events of invasions, letting Brigitte take over his role and sending Bastion over instead of him. And as of chapter 9 of the Webtoons comic, all the fleeing Overwatch members have since taken up temporary residence at Torbjorn's home in Gothenburg. Bastion and Ganymede have now officially joined Overwatch. Dude, that's what their entire thing says. That's it. That's what their entire bio says.
You did me a favor by calling your retreat, Omnic. It saved me the trouble of killing you myself.
Jetpack Cat, or Fika, was found at the landing bay and became an Overwatch member after the attack on Gibraltar thanks to Brigitte, as we see them sneak on the evac ship at the end of the Webtoons comic. And Fika supposedly guided Brigitte into making the suit for her. Whether that's intentional or not, Fika being an official Overwatch member in any capacity hasn't been fully ran by Sojourn yet. Sojourn herself doesn't seem too keen on Fika given her interactions with Sojourn's dog, Murphy.
That's for chasing Murphy.
But anyways, Brigitte, like I previously mentioned, has taken up Torbjorn's old station in Overwatch of being their tools, gadgets, repairs, and armors person. And while in the midst of welcoming Anran and Wu Yang to Overwatch, Talon attacked their base. Anran and Wu Yang, after being recruited by Winston, waited till Anran finished Fire College before joining, with Anran convincing her parents to let Wu Yang take a break from his studies, since he only just finished his first year. Soon after they arrived at Gibraltar, like I mentioned previously, Talon attacked, immediately putting them into the action. But now, as of current events, are somewhat settling in. Also, just some extra information that we have of the two, Anran is allergic to cats and loves Lucio.
Whew, I think my allergies are acting up. Oh, no wonder.
Hey, did I do something to upset you? I feel like you've been avoiding me.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry. I just really wanted an autograph and I didn't want to be weird.
You should have just said so. What am I signing?
Everything.
And Wu Yang seems to be getting some mentorship from Mercy on how to wield his staff better.
Dr. Ziegler, you should join us next time we run drills. I feel like I only ever see you in the lab.
I'm better at working than training. Why not ask Commander Chase?
Well, I was hoping to pick up some of your tricks with the staff.
If you promise to be patient with me, I'll do my best.
Orisa and Ify have joined Overwatch right after defending Numbani from Null Sector, with Orisa not really wanting to go at first, but was convinced by Ify to leave to help the rest of the world. And now in Orisa's place as defender of Numbani are the Junies, beetle-like machines Ify made that reside in most residents' home in Numbani, but can also throw hands when needed. Baptiste, after the attack, is now putting his combat bag skills into action, and still hasn't told anyone about him previously working for Talon. The only ones who currently know are Cassidy and Ana. Oh, and the hit Talon had on him hasn't moved at all.
I see you're making some changes in Talon. Any chance that includes forgetting about me?
I owe you no favors, least of all your life.
Is it a favor? Or less work for a very busy woman?
Executing traitors isn't work. It's pleasure.
Juno, now with Overwatch, has put a pause on a rescue mission to save her Mars family from annihilation, since Lu Chang Stellar, the company who sent them, and yes, the same company whose building Wrecking Ball broke into, denied Juno's requests of any form of rescue or resupply, though someone on the inside seems to be looking to covertly get a rescue mission going. The same person who gave Juno a communication device from her parents, confirming they and her Mars family are still alive. Now, for the moment, Juno is prioritizing her Overwatch duties with no choice really, because they're actively being hunted. And I just have to say, with the new Webtoons comic, it's safe to say that she is definitely up there with the other characters going through a lot, since in the comics, she was just peacefully setting up a welcome party for the new recruits, since, you know, she's not the new recruit anymore, she can be like their seniors, until fucking Talon attacked, causing her to evade, you know, being shot, almost watched Lucio get shot dead because she hesitated to kill someone for the first time, was the only person repairing the comms, and was rushed to repair said comms with nothing but some fucking lint and string, was forced to abandon her Earth home Gibraltar after Tracer just said they would fight to keep it before they had to evacuate. This on top of her already being under so much pressure of losing her Mars family. And just to be clear, of the 8 chapters in this comic, for 7 of those, there was not a moment where she wasn't freaking out. Hell, in the final chapter, the final panel is of her crying. Her looking all gleeful and smiley on the cover is nothing but lies. Ana has recently split with Soldier 76 after finding out that Talon is going after the remaining Overwatch agents that Reaper collected the data on at Gibraltar in the Winston vs. Reaper cinematic all those years ago, with Ana wanting to defend the people she loves by, you know, saving them from Talon, and Soldier wanting to go a different route, wanting to defend the people they love by pursuing and punishing the people that led to Overwatch's ruin, which obviously caused them to split up again. And as of the Webtoons comic is now back with Overwatch again after they got attacked. No idea if it's permanent though, because during the New Bloods comics, she denied joining Overwatch again after Cassidy asked her to join. She denied in not wanting to repeat Overwatch's past mistakes and letting the new generation take leadership, but things may be different now that Talon is after them. And after rendezvousing with Tracer, has told Overwatch of Doomfist's death. Echo, Cassidy, Diva, May, Mercy, Farah, Reinhardt, and Zarya didn't really get anything regarding their position on current events. However, we do know that these people are still 100% with Overwatch. It's just they haven't gotten anything explicit in the form of bio change or any explicit voice lines on where they are or where their head is at. And before we move on to the final group, I just want to mention now, Gibraltar, the map, is now fully abandoned. No Overwatch member are currently residing there. Finally, we can move on to the Outliers, the people not associated with Talon or Overwatch, at least in any official capacity at the moment, and don't seem to be aligned with them. So of course, first, our deserters, Reaper, Widowmaker, and Sombra have all since ditched Talon after Vendetta overthrew Doomfist. Reaper left for the most obvious reason of because he didn't think his life would be spared, given he was the one who killed Vendetta's father, and nor does he care for Vendetta's plan of world domination or whatever her overall plan is. But the thing is, now without Moira's maintenance checks and whatnot, given this voice line from Moira,
Oh, but you're lost without me.
they seem kind of in a bind for as like an alternative. Widowmaker also fled, but specifically with the notion of getting out of Moira's reach, and knowing Vendetta's reign of Talon is an eventual sinking ship, but still has like the psychopath tendency or whatever the fuck, and still wants to kill things to feel alive, just this time out of her own will and agenda rather than following an organization's will. Though, as Maximilian mentions,
Annelie, the Widowmaker, she relies on a steady supply of drug formulations to maintain her skill and suppress bad memories.
and we'll probably see the ramifications of in the same way we may see Reapers. Just one's mental, one's physical. Sombra, who also left Talon because they see Vendetta as a loose cannon, is definitely probably the most prepared to leave and probably was the easiest to jump ship, because I mean she was never loyal to Talon in the first place. She was just using them as like a stepping stool. With the only true string left behind is Sigma, and she is avidly looking to get him out of there. Outside of that, she has many connections to existing characters. In specific to her story would be Iyari and Soldier 76, who are connected to her main goal of finding out who truly runs the world, aka, at least according to her origin story, the conspiracy group, ever since they caught her in said origin story, having to do something with the AI controlling Emre, as I mentioned earlier. As for her current alignments, it's probably closer to that of Soldier and Iyari than it is Reaper and Widowmaker. Iyari, with the aid of Soldier 76, is currently fighting to keep the secrets of the Inti Warriors, her group, from those who would seek to use it for their benefit, like the Oasis group, and specifically find out what happened to her ritual, the one that from her origin story where she killed everyone. Because according to her, everything about that ritual went perfect, except for what came after. Believing something or someone might have tampered with it, connecting her to Sombra's goal of, finding out the person behind it and all that. Soldier 76 is currently with Iyari, as I mentioned, seeing her as a younger version of himself and about to make the same regretful mistakes he made when he was her age, foregoing her life's wants and needs for the sake of the duty she placed on herself and wants to, steer her away. And as previously mentioned, her thoughts on her explosion and it being tampered with links to the explosion of Overwatch's Swiss headquarters. To jog your memory, the place where Jack Morrison and Gabriel Reyes died, in air quotes, leading to the shutdown of Overwatch entirely, linking the conspiracy group who planted an explosive in the building of a global peacekeeping organization to Iyari's explosion, the decimation of another peacekeeping organization, making himself, Iyari, and Sombra all connected and wanting to learn more about this group.
How long have you been after this mystery we're chasing?
Let's just say I was someone else entirely when I fell down this rabbit hole.
Huh. I guess I know what you mean.
When it comes to Venture literally just waiting for Sombra to contact them ever since they met at the end of the Ventures comic. Beyond that, nothing.
So, you haven't been in touch since Ilios.
Be patient, Esquinkle. You aren't the only piece in this puzzle.
But what kind of puzzle? Lockbox, ancient riddle, jigsaw?
Whatever kind makes you stop asking questions.
Kiriko is currently leading yokai against the Hashimoto's and recently found Hanzo after he was captured by the Hashimoto's. I know she's in this category, but she seems to have some sort of alliance or affiliation with Overwatch, given she was in their recruitment poster, but nothing else points to her being part of Overwatch at the moment. Hanzo, 2 years after the Dragon cinematic, is still running and hiding prior to being saved by Kiriko, and figured he owed Kiriko and her family. 1, for, saving her life from the Hashimoto's, and 2, after he fled from leading his clan. Those heavily associated with the Shimadas, like Kiriko's family, have been struggling ever since to make ends meet. So now he's working with Kiriko and yokai, and seems to be chilling with Kiriko and her mother at their house, or apartment, and does not trust Mitsuki.
Not sure Hanzo likes me much.
Don't take it personal. He thinks everyone's suspicious.
Oh, but I'm such a stand-up guy. You trust me, right?
Not when you say it like that.
Hazard hasn't seen the light of day. They have less information than Venture and Bastion. They didn't even get a lore entry. They didn't get anything. We know they're still with the Freaks. Fucking nothing else has been said. The only thing we really mildly know about him is that he has a sort of friendship with Ash, which could be used there, but he's clearly not a fan of Talon and anything going on with them, but also vehemently hates Overwatch.
Oh, I gotta work with these bootlickers! Overwatch! Oh, better not embarrass me out there. I'd never work with the likes of you.
So he doesn't really fit in either side this season, given his lore and what we have so far. Lifeweaver is currently in the Atlantic Arcology and has since mended his relationship with Symmetra after fleeing Vishkar 11 years ago, and together have been seen inside the Shambali Monastery during Christmas time alongside Zenyatta. Symmetra recently came to an epiphany that she doesn't perfectly see eye to eye with Vishkar anymore, and is currently looking into Vishkar's founder at the behest of Lifeweaver so she could get some answers for questions that she's asking about the company and like how she truly feels about this. However, proving to be challenging given Vishkar buried their history.
I am still searching for information on Dr. Bhatt, Niran. Answers are not forthcoming.
It's in Vishkar's best interest to bury its founder's vision. But you deserve to know the truth.
However, she's only staying in Vishkar to hopefully use their resources to help those in need rather than unjustly benefiting from them. In other words, to change Vishkar from the inside. Zenyatta, at the end of Null Sector Invasions, was taken into custody by Talon, as we see at the end of the Invasions expansion, and was brought to talk to Zenyatta, at which Ramatra asked Zen to join him in his future plans, to which of course Zenyatta, being Zenyatta, immediately declines, 1 for not wanting to achieve peace through violence, and 2 especially no because Ramatra's closely working with the people who shot both of their master, Mandata, and in this case was escorted by the person who shot them. Like, what are we doing? Finally, Ramatra. Ramatra's last appearance was in that same conversation with Zenyatta, as seemingly he's currently laying low, as he correctly foresaw the vendetta and her whole thing going on is going to be a major problem for the world soon enough on its own, and let the world weaken itself, right? So currently he's sitting back, biding his time with his millions, again, one more time, millions of captured and subjugated Omnics, waiting and planning his next move. And that is everything. I tried to include everything that's relevant right now, and as of making this video, we still have at least one more Webtoons comic to wait for, as well as a new season coming out in less than a week. And of course, when they do come out, they'll expand on the current story, so look out for potential part 2 maybe? Or maybe not, you know, I might go back to Deltarune. It really just depends how this does. Okay, that being said, bye. Go away. Shoot.